Adam Gray opposes the early release of prisoners and eliminating our bail system.
Adam Gray funded a task force that locked up 50 cartel gang leaders.
Law enforcement professionals are asking you to join us in supporting Adam Gray for Congress.
I'm Adam Gray, and I approve this message. People who are sick don't need get-well wishes from politicians. They need doctors and nurses. I fought for the funding to build a medical school right here in the Central Valley. That's real. I'm Adam Gray, and I approve this message.
Welcome to the Modern Assyrian program on AGN. My name is Carmen Morad. My special guest today is Assemblyman Adam Gray, candidate for the 13th Congressional District. Welcome to the program, Assemblyman.
Well, thank you so much for the invitation. It's wonderful to be here.
Well, we are honored to have you on. I know you are extremely busy, not just as our Assemblyman, but also as a candidate. You are campaigning. Let's talk about the redistricting that happened. We have, I believe, 3 different redrawn congressional districts, and you are running for the 13th district. Please let our viewers know what has prompted you to make this decision and to take this fight all the way to the House of Representatives.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, what an honor it is to be here this evening, get a chance to get in front of your viewers and talk a little bit about my congressional campaign. I've spent the past decade fighting for our valley in the state legislature. And I first ran for the state assembly because I felt strongly that our part of the state was often overlooked and didn't receive the attention and the resources that we so much deserve. This is one of the, this is the greatest agricultural production valley in the world. And we are a diverse and wonderful community of people from all over the world who have come here oftentimes to work with their hands to make things to feed the world. And when people think of California, they don't always think of the great San Joaquin Valley. They think of the beaches in Los Angeles and San Diego and San Francisco. But we contribute a great deal to this state and a great deal to this country. And I had worked with our former Assemblyman, Dennis Cardoza, and gotten a little, experience or window into the state capitol, how it works. And I felt like I could take that experience and really be effective for our community. And I'm proud of the work I've done over these past 10 years. When I started in 2012, I said that I was going to bring a medical school to the San Joaquin Valley so that we could improve our healthcare infrastructure, our hospitals, our clinics, attract and bring more physicians into the area. Just last year, I secured the final amount of money that's going to allow the first class of medical students to enroll at UC Merced in 2023, just next year. I'm proud of that. Over the past 10 years, I've brought over $1 billion in specific transportation related infrastructure into this valley, including the extension of the Altamont Corridor Express from Stockton all the way down to Merced. That's going to help the many people in this valley that commute for work far and wide here in the valley and throughout Northern California. And I've most importantly fought for our ag community and our water rights. I've challenged the Water Board in their effort through the Bay Delta Plan to steal essentially additional water out of this valley by forcing the unimpaired flows in our local reservoirs to go as high as 50%, a move that could cost tens of thousands of jobs and billions of dollars in economic loss right here in the San Joaquin Valley, not to mention putting our drinking water in danger in many of our small communities throughout the valley. So what I'm most proud of these past 10 years is that I've always put our community before my party. Too often in this country, and we're seeing it in politics throughout the country in many states, we're seeing a lot of partisanship. We're seeing a lot of finger pointing and blame game. In my time in Sacramento, I led the Moderate Democratic Caucus. I was a founding member of the Problem Solvers Caucus, which is a equal number of Democrats and Republicans who've come together to find bipartisan solutions for our community and our state and our country. And I'm proud of that record. I have a record of working together and delivering results. And most importantly, I'm proud to live here. I was born and raised in Merced. I live on the same block that I was born on. And my family's here. And I just love the San Joaquin Valley and the Central Valley. And I know this is going to come as kind of a shock or a strange thing to say, but I'm the only candidate running for Congressional District 13 who actually lives in this district. I live here. I have a record. I have experience. And what I've been telling people throughout this campaign is if you want a, candidate for Congress who has no experience, no record, and doesn't live in your district, then vote for any of my opponents because they all fit that bill. But if you want somebody who was born and raised here, who loves this valley, and who will always put you before any politics, before either political party or any of the political bosses, then I'd be proud to be your candidate for Congress. But it has been a wonderful 10 years. We've accomplished so much, and I hope that I can take that fight to Washington, D.C. On our behalf and make sure that we bring the federal resources home here to the northern San Joaquin Valley.
Very well put. Thank you so much. That was articulated very eloquently. It does make a difference when you live in your district. You are familiar with the challenges and also the strengths that the community and the constituents have. And of course, over a decade of your accomplishments that you just mentioned, you are also known for a state legislature, assemblyman, I want to say, that reaches across the aisle. It is so important for everyone to know, to really get something done, to get a bill passed, to make sure that a legislature that works. We all know Sacramento has its own way of doing things for years. Nothing is perfect. But to be able to reach across the aisle, to be everybody's assemblyman or everybody's congressman takes that ability. Please let our viewers know what your plans are to tackle some of the most, and the trending issues are not one or two. I wanted to ask you about the three, but it would be unfair to do that. We have inflation to talk about. We have high gas prices to talk about. We have, like you mentioned, or in your bio, we heard about the measures you have taken when it came to gang violence, when it came to public safety. I want to talk to you about Prop 47, for example. Tell us which one of those issues you will be tackling when you are in that position at a federal level, knowing how already the state legislature works.
Well, thank you for your nice comments about my bipartisanship. It's something I really believe in. And it's reflected in this race for Congress because I'm the only candidate in this race with bipartisan endorsements. I have, Democratic support like Senator Feinstein, who's been a leader for ag and water here in the state. And I also have Republican support. For example, Sheriff Jeff Dirksey in Stanislaus County, and Sheriff Vern Warnke in Merced County, and Sheriff Margaret Mims in Fresno County. And you might ask yourself, why does a Democrat running in a primary election have the support of some Republican elected officials? Well, it's because I always work across the aisle and I work with everyone. We hire elected officials to do a job. And that job is to improve our quality of life, to focus on things like public safety, roads, transportation infrastructure, education, healthcare. We want better, safer, and more prosperous communities. We don't hire elected officials to go on Twitter and hurl insults and blame all the problems on the other party. We hire people to solve problems. And that's the approach I've taken. And that's why I have that support. You bring up Prop 47, Prop 57. One of the reasons I have the support of, law enforcement across the board, as well as our sheriffs, is because I've been a strong advocate for public safety. I went to Sacramento and fought for money to support our local law enforcement. They took that money and arrested over 50 gang cartel leaders in one of the largest busts in the history of the San Joaquin Valley. I support our police officers. I support our sheriffs. And it's because of bad initiatives like Prop 47 and Prop 57 that we're seeing an increase in crime, petty theft, and other challenges. And those challenges are reducing the quality of life for everybody, not just Republicans or Democrats, everybody. And that's why we all got to work together hand in glove with our law enforcement partners to put forward policies that support our police and ensure that we have safe communities.
Thank you for that reply. We've had Jeff Dirksey on this program. I have also interviewed our outgoing District Attorney, Birgit Flatiger, and our next unopposed candidate, Jeff, Jeff Lugero. And he will also say the same things. It has to do with what laws and when propositions become laws, what they have to work with and how they prosecute. So making those laws is extremely important. And one of the questions that I always ask is, how does a proposition come to pass into law versus a bill where is introduced, where legislature aides are working at it, where they know how this will benefit everyone because it does become law versus propositions. And what happens when someone votes for a proposition, and to be honest with you, your average person doesn't really know when that language is written the way it is, how it will impact and how it will be implemented. So what happens when a proposition like 47 and 57 are having these negative implications, how they can be reversed?
Well, it's a huge challenge. One of the problems with the initiative system is oftentimes we're voting on these big, very complicated issues based on 30-second TV commercials that we see during campaign season. And the average citizen doesn't necessarily have the time to fully vet or do all the research. That's why we have a representative democracy, and that's why we have a state legislature. But when the voters do pass something by initiative or do a constitutional amendment, the only way to change or repeal those initiatives is to go back to the ballot, which is a very expensive proposition and requires tens of thousands, if not millions of signatures, and more importantly, millions of dollars to pass or oppose these initiatives on the ballot. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's a great tool for direct democracy and people to make their opinions known directly on the ballot. But it's a dangerous tool when we get something like Prop 47 or 57, and now the only way to amend those laws or to improve those laws is to go back to the ballot. The legislature, in many respects, has its hands tied. And I certainly think that's a challenge. We might want to look at ways to deal with that going forward, but it's not going to be an easy problem to solve.
It really is. The League of Women Voters does a great job when they actually study and analyze these propositions, and they ask the questions that every voter should ask themselves. Who is financing this proposition and who will benefit from it? And that's one way where it becomes closer to making that decision other than the 30-second ads that you just mentioned.
Well, I think the sad thing is that the initiative system was first envisioned as being a tool of the people, right? And unfortunately, because of the size of our state and our population, we've come to a place where the ability for the average person to collect enough signatures to put something on the ballot is almost impossible. And so you need millions of dollars, and the average person doesn't have millions of dollars. So you see these special interests who fund these initiatives one way or the other. And to your point, the League of Women Voters and other organizations have good tools so that you can at least know who it is that's behind these issues. But it certainly is a system that has some flaws.
Agreed. We just need to do more of our homework to become more informed voters. You mentioned earlier that the San Joaquin Valley is a very diverse community, and so is Stanislaus County, where we are today. I just want to mention something and remind our viewers that a few years back, when I was working with Lisa, who I believe the Assyrian community is very familiar with her, she really goes above and beyond when it comes to constituent services. And when I requested a resolution from your office, and it was a joint resolution from you and Senator Galgiani at the time, it was a joint resolution for the remembrance of the Assyrian genocide. And I just want to have this opportunity to thank you, because when you celebrate the diversity of our communities, and especially in our counties and in our region, it really makes us feel valued and welcome. And that's one way to really get closer to who our elected officials are, who our candidates are, and to really know their values. And I just want to take that opportunity to thank you for it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And frankly, I'm proud and honored to stand with the Assyrian community and continue to stand with the Assyrian community in my service in Congress if the voters decide to elect me, because the diversity of this valley is our greatest asset. You know, people come here from all over the world. One of our congressmen from down in the Fresno area, Jim Costa, likes to say that the San Joaquin Valley is a place of immigrants past and immigrants present. And I always like that saying because it's true. You know, my family came from France, Norway, Oklahoma in the early 1900s and came out to California to be ag business people. But our community has grown in its richness and its diversity every single decade over these last several hundred years. We have, you know, the Hmong, Lao, Mien, Punjabi, the Assyrians. There are so many different cultures that are represented here in the San Joaquin Valley that, again, have come from all over the world to a place where if you work hard, you can make something for you and your family. And many people work with their hands and work in farming and food production and many other businesses. And I think it's a proud tradition. And I think it's what, like I said, our greatest strength really here in the San Joaquin Valley is that diversity. And we should celebrate it and support each other at every opportunity.
Absolutely. You know, in fact, all the communities that you mentioned that I have the privilege of working with through our county, through our collaboratives, they truly have very strong work ethic. We all appreciate and really welcome the fact that there are opportunities here, the fact that we can engage in the greatest democracy in the world. And as whether they're naturalized citizens, we encourage everyone to vote. We encourage them to register to vote, to find out if your district has changed and get to know your candidate. You know, it really does make you feel better as you fulfill that obligation and opportunity. And then usually, and I'm guessing, please correct me if it's wrong, you usually hear from your constituents if they're unhappy about something, correct?
100%. And that's my job, is to field those concerns and to be a liaison right now with the state government, if I'm elected to Congress, with the federal government, and to make sure that government is working for the people that elected us.
Absolutely. And given a decade long of your experience, your achievements, you understand this district better than anyone. So once elected, you will hit the ground running. And I think that's a fair assumption for our viewers to know and our voters to understand.
I'm proud of my record. It's the thing that I hope voters look at as they research their decision in this race. You know, I've worked hard to improve our health care, improve our infrastructure, fight for water, and to work with our law enforcement officials to make for a safer community. Those are the important issues that I think voters want addressed. I know it's not always what we see on TV, right? There's a lot of issues on TV that maybe are a little more exciting for the TV shows. They're not talking about roads and bridges and reservoirs and more money for police officers. But those are the issues we need to work on if we want a better quality of life for the people who have come here to make their home in the San Joaquin Valley.
Absolutely. You know, it all becomes about having someone to fight for you, having someone who knows how to navigate through the system, whether it's local legislature all the way in House of Representatives. And it comes down to everyday quality of life issues. As you said, public safety, economic vitality. For us, it's agriculture and water. And to have someone who understands that will fight for it, I think is key. In closing, Assemblyman, I would like to ask you to just look straight ahead and tell the viewers and our voters what will be the most passionate challenge that you see that you will tackle, given the opportunity to be our congressman.
Well, often, you know, people ask me, what are the top 3 issues facing your community? And you know, I generally answer that question by saying water, water, and water. You know, we are first and foremost an agricultural community, and so many of our businesses, even the ones that are not in ag, are supported by a strong ag economy. And a strong ag economy is supported by the availability and affordability of clean water. We need that for our communities. We need that for our economy. And I'm going to take the fight to Congress to get us more water. I'm proud to have been the author of the largest water bond in California history that included almost $3 billion for water storage. But we need a lot more. We need to make those investments. We can't be living off the what I call the credit card of infrastructure of our grandparents. We need to reinvest in this country, reinvest in our young people, and we need to have safe communities with good schools. And those are the issues that I'm going to fight for when I get to Congress. I'd be honored to have your support. You're going to find people in this campaign saying, "Oh, Adam Gray's a Pelosi Democrat. Adam Gray's a Trump Democrat. They're going to make accusations, this, that, and the next thing." It's because they don't have a record. I have a record. Look at mine. I'm proud of it. And I'd be honored to have your vote for Congressional District 13 on June 7th.
Thank you so much for that articulate closing statement. And the ballots are out. They have been mailed. Everyone has their ballot. They can either choose to put it back in the mail or drop it in a drop box, the official drop boxes of our voter registrar in every county. But they also may, on election day, take it and hand it over to the vote centers or to voter registrar. Thank you so much for making time to be here today to have this conversation with us.
Thank you for the time. And please remember to get out and vote via ballot or on June 7th at the polls. It's important. Thank you.
Thank you so much. This concludes my conversation with Assemblyman Adam Gray, candidate for the 13th Congressional District. I'll see you on the next Modern Assyrian on Assyrian Global Network. This is Carmen Morad.
Politicians say they're for more jobs. That's not real. I delivered construction jobs to the Valley. Good jobs that pay the bills. I'm Adam Gray, and I approve this message.